Hey, what's up everybody? It's Andy from CleanSwifter.com, and I'm here to show you another refactoring this week from Martin Fowler's book, Refactoring, Improving the Design of Existing Code. This week we're going to take a look at the refactoring called Replace Temp with Query. Replace Temp with Query is refactoring that's a lot like extract method, but there's one difference. It's a little more specific. With Replace Temp with Query, we're going to specifically target temporary variables within our code and extract them into reusable pieces of code. So for example, oftentimes in your code, you may create a temporary variable that's then assigned a value based on the result of some computation and then reused elsewhere in your code. Especially if it's reused, if that value then is reused several different places, the benefit is that by extracting that, by replacing the temp with a query, which is then going to be reusable code, you provide a much bigger availability of where that code can be reused from. Additionally, by removing the code that assigns a value to the temp, that it will also consolidate the code where the temporary variable is used. So often, temporary variables can lead to methods that are longer than they should, and it decreases the readability of code because you have these temporary variables that you then have to, when you're looking at code, read and understand where that variable, how that variable is computed from. So let's take a look at this refactoring in Swift for how we're going to replace a temp with a query. Here's a view controller that has three properties on it. Two strings, which represent a first and last name, and a label that's going to be set with the name. Here in view.load, we're actually going to compute a full name, which represents the first name, a space, and the last name, store that in a temporary variable called full name, and then set it as the text on the label. So the first thing that should jump out at you here is the use of this var, of defining this variable as a var. General Swift best practice is that if a variable is created and only ever assigned to once, it should be defined as let. And in fact, the compiler actually tells us that here. The variable was never mutated, please change it to a let, and it'll even help you do that. Now the benefit here, also this ties right into the refactoring replace temp with query, because by changing this to a let, we have the confidence that this variable is never changed anywhere else after it's first assigned. This means full name always represents this computed value. That sets us up well to do the refactoring. So Martin Fowler's book, he actually advocates for the refactoring to be performed as creating a new method that represents this result. Now I think something a little more Swift-like is that we can use computed properties here to actually return this value. So the goal of this refactoring is that I want to delete this line of code. So to do that, I'm going to create a computed property full name. And that's going to have a getter on it, which simply returns this value. And you need to define a type on computed properties. So that returns that value. Now what I can do here is I can continue on my mission to delete that line of code and then simply let this reuse the computed value full name, which is first name plus space plus last name. Now you can see a line of code was deleted from view.load. No need to look at a temporary variable. And additionally, we now have this piece of reusable code where we can actually access a full name from anywhere else in our code. Now, in the case that it's not so straightforward to use a computed property, you could actually create a method that returns a string in this case, which would be full name. But I think this is a good solution for this specific refactoring. So there you have it. That's replace temp with query in Swift. Again, the benefits here is that now you have a reusable piece of code which represents that computed value. And additionally, you can delete the temporary variable from the method where it's being called from, thus consolidating that method and improving the overall readability. I hope you like this video on this refactoring, Replace Temp with Query from Martin Fowler's book, Refactoring, Improving the Design of Existing Code. You can buy the book through my Amazon affiliate link in the description for this video. See you next time. Happy cleaning.